June is Black Music Month. CSB TV celebrates Black music.
Question, what is your earliest memory of you discovering music was something you wanted to do?
I think as a kid, because as a kid, I used to sing with a couple neighborhood friends. And I remember my mom buying me a plastic microphone for Christmas. And it was attached to like a little radio, had the little cord. And so I would pretend I want to sing. And I'm like, I was really fascinated by that. And to watch, people sing, musicians, like famous musicians and local as a kid, it was fascinating. And I liked that. And so that's how I got started. And my friends and I, if you remember the 8-tracks, we used to record stuff on the 8-track, whether it's a cover song or we make up something. So I think that's when I really wanted to get in music. And when I was in middle school, my music teacher he had heard me sing something. And, he was really wanting me to join the choir, and he was going to be my mentor. And my mother said, no, go to take driver's ed. Really? So fast forward, sang in church, church choir, and really didn't think about it again till 96. Like, what I'm doing now professionally. And it was by accident, total accident, how that happened.
Oh, okay. So with that said, explain that, because I always wonder what encourages people to do what they enjoy as opposed to just sticking with the 9 to 5.
So in 96, my youngest son, one night I was singing Silent Night, and one of my favorite Christmas tunes, and guy that I was dating was a bass player in a band. And he said, I didn't know you could sing. And I looked at him like, I didn't know I could sing either. And he said, well, we're looking for a singer. I'm like, oh, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I said, okay. It took some convincing. I said, okay. And so my mentor, Big Al Levitt, may he rest in peace, he heard about me. And so the band was in one room, and then he had 100-foot cord. I took that microphone with the cord. I went in the bathroom, closed the door, turned on the water, and then I started singing something. And that's how I got in the band, because my stage fright was it was through the roof. It was bad. A lot of my friends who know me know that story. So, and that's how I got into it. And I'm glad. And for a whole year, once I joined my very first ever blues professional band, Blues Music Work, or BMW, I would sit behind my boyfriend, a bass player, in a chair facing like the wall, just facing away from the crowd while they faced the crowd. And I did that for a whole year. And it was insane. And then Big Al came to me and he's like, you got to figure out how to get out of that. He said, because people are going to want to hear you. He said, they hear you, but he said, they're going to want to hear you, which means they want to see you and see who is this and what they're doing. So that's where that came from.
So that actually answers my next question as far as, well, you got into live music through that way, but you record as well. How did you take the steps into recording?
I first recorded with my first band. We did a demo at a local studio. I didn't know anything about recording. I just kind of, I went along with, them, because obviously they had a little bit more experience than I did. And as the years went on, when I formed my own 2 bands, my very first recording was 10 years ago. And it was interesting. There were a lot of things that I learned and I picked up, and I remember. And there's one song on my first album, and I kid you not, I did it over and over 30 times. By the time the 30th time came, I said, if this don't work, nothing works. I'm like, there's no way. I'm not doing this again. And don't you know, they took the very first take and the second take, and of course they put it together, however they do that. And then when I as I started recording, other musician friends or people I know, they're like, hey, we want you to come and record. And so I learned from, say, the time before, wherever I recorded at. And I learned what not to do, and I learned what to do. And so now it's become easier for me to record. I'm very comfortable. I went out, my second album came out 3 years ago. I went to Greaseland Studios in San Jose under Kid Anderson and Andy Santana. They were co-producers. And I had 3.5 days to record 11 songs.
Wow.
Oh, that's what I said. And it was 8-hour days. There was a couple days, it was like 10 or 12, like one or two of those days. But what was nice about it, the studio musicians were seasoned musicians, and they had played with some of the heavy hitters in the music industry, from James Brown to Etta James. So I had to step up my game, and I had to prove to these guys who never heard of me ever, that I can do what I have to do. And I did it. So now it's becoming a little bit more, I'm a little bit more relaxed with it.
That's good. So what was your inspiration for recording the classic Wade in the Water?
Oh, that's very easy.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Morgan, who produced it, and Jay Vernali, who did the arrangement, and Kim Parent added her vocals, which were phenomenal, by the way. Mike approached me and he asked, at first I thought it was a CD project he was doing, and he just wanted me to suggest a song I sing on at the end. Well, that's not what he wanted. He wanted me to release a single, me, featuring me. And I was like, wow, I've never released a single before in my life. So this was my very first single. And I was honored, and he said, pick a song. And he said, pick a Negro spiritual song. And I said, okay. And there's a lot that I knew, but the one that's, that stood out to me was Wade in the Water, because I learned that as a kid. And as I got older, I learned the meaning behind it and why it was sung so long ago. And the reason why I chose it, number one, because I'm comfortable with it. And number two, what's going on in the world today. And I said, people need a reason to come to the water, to have something to hold on to give them some kind of strength, to lead them to some kind of goodness. And so that's why I chose Wade in the Water.
Okay. And the last question, if you had the chance to do a duet with anyone, whether they be dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Can I pick 3 people?
Sure, you sure can.
Because I have 3 people in mind. My very first influence as far as blues, not only was Big Al and I sang together, my first band, but he compared me to Coco Taylor, who is my all-time biggest influence in blues. And I would have loved to have done a show with her. The next one is Tab Benoit, who's alive, and he does that, I call it the Ragin' Cajun Blues, and he's from Louisiana. What I like about Tab is he's an excellent musician. He's all around instrumental, but if you listen to his songs, whether he's covering them or mostly his songs, he is talking about life like most of us. But he's really talking about somebody's life. Something happened. And he's a big contributor as far as the wetlands down there and just nature. And I like that. The third person I would love to have done a show with is Billie Holiday. Because I love Billie Holiday. She shows class, elegance. And there's a song on my first album called Habit. And that's the song that I sang 30 times in the studio. And it reminds me of Billie Holiday. I just like the way she commanded the stage. All 3 of them commanded the stage, and it was each in their own way. But she was elegant. She had poise. And she, when she got on stage, people listened. Like they knew who she was, and they liked, and no matter what she sang, from Strange Fruit to, whatever else she did. God Bless the Child and others. So those are the 3.